everybody? It's your DM Zektown here with another DM 101. It's been a very long time since I've done one of these, probably since, I don't know, late fall last year. So, just trying to knock the rust off a little bit, and why not start with something easy like making the perfect one shot? Easier said than done. Can it be done? On amateurish productions of all places? Well, we're gonna find out, and I have a couple things here to kind of look at, and we might even end up in flipping dungeon draft tonight. Who really knows? I don't. You know what I mean? It just depends on what happens. But I kind of want to lay out some, I don't want to call them ground rules, but basically the things that are going to help you stay concise and stick to a 2.5 hour, let's say 2.5 hour to 3 hour slot of time where you can successfully navigate a one shot, even with the most distracting of players, even with players who will talk about eggs for 20 minutes. Uh, Call me crazy, but I've been there. I've had a DM that, and I live to tell the tale. Um, so let's just dive right into it. Um, I'm gonna open it up, I guess, with like a piece of advice that I had kind of heard through various YouTube videos and articles that I've read, and even in if you go wide and start learning about storytelling and stuff like that, and the construction of stories and what makes a good introduction and stuff like that, with something like we're trying to accomplish, the most common thing that I've heard is 20 minutes. You want to come out with a bang in 20 minutes or less. And what that really means is you want to hand off the baton in this 400-meter dash to your players who are going to be, the second runners in your race. And one thing this kind of does is it reminds them of their agency. It reminds them of the time constraints. And in this 20 minutes, this first 20 minutes, you are in the process of handing this off to your players. You are going to be really giving the general scope, and you're setting the expectation for what's going to go on, basically. And all of that is crazy super important when trying to get this stuff done. Um, so yeah, let me just check something really quick. All right. Cool, cool, cool. Everything's working well. Tested my audio really quick. We are all good. Yeah, can't wait to see some of you in the chat. But until then, I will carry on. So what what the fuck are you supposed to do with that 20 minutes? I've harped on it. I've said the word 20 minutes now probably like a dozen times. So let's get into you know, let's get into what that entails. Um, with the setting, you are, those 20 minutes, you are introducing your players to your audience. Or like, you're introducing your players to each other, really. And in the way of doing that, you're therefore like also like informing your audience of who these people are. Um, you want to think about a one shot as if it were a singular chapter in an entire novel that would be a campaign. So approaching it with that mentality where it's just like going to be one chapter of a book, maybe that includes like 3 scenes, 4 scenes. Like that's important because you're taking a snapshot. You're not trying to give the players the entire world. You're not trying to, do a lore dump. You're not trying to necessarily have like a 20-minute deep dive conversation with like the tragic flaws in one of your players. Um, you're a chapter of a book. That's right. But like you you want to be able to, you know, hand off those like first couple pages of the chapter and allow the players to really like write the rest of the scenes. And so you're framing the scope in terms of, hey, you're at the tavern. Now, a pirate walks in with a peg leg and, throws his hand on a table and says, "You are the first adventurers I've seen in this place," with a grin on your face, which means you must be successful. I need someone to find my ship. And like that, like there you go. That's like you're starting to frame the scope of like the world just by doing that, and you're doing it by saying less also. You're giving the framework that, okay, they're in this town that has a port because there is a pirate here and he's asking you to find his ship. So one of two things: either the DM is like giving you a major hangover moment where there's a pirate here but there's no ocean for like 500 miles and what happened last night kind of thing, or you are in a port city and you can kind of estimate that within the parameters of a one shot like this, the players will either be going around the city, particularly around a dock area or a part of the harbor, or maybe they're getting their own boat, getting someone to take them somewhere, and going to a nearby island, and then that is like the setting for the one shot. Or like, they're going to some cove just outside of like the city's limits down the shoreline or something. And that could be like another way where you're kind of then moving the setting and setting the tone for like where the rest of this action is going to take place for your chapter or whatever. Oh my gosh, Zero, this is it is April 5th, not April 1st. Um this is my sincerest attempt to kind of guide people and kind of world build at the same time a little bit into crafting a one shot that is completely doable in 2.5 to 3 hours, which I think is something we can do here on Amateurish Productions if we really try. So, well, thank you for joining. I'm glad you are here. So glad you're here. Um, let's see what happens. Oh, well, let's use the term wisdom in a very loose sense because who knows where we're going to end up. I mentioned before that we could potentially even, get all this stuff knocked out, and then end up in dungeon draft making making maps for this one shot. So that is my goal. My goal is by 9:15, 9:30. I started a little bit late tonight, so I might go a little bit later. My goal is to, in 2 hours roughly, help craft a one shot that is totally doable for an actual session with your friends in person or online in a 2.5 to 3 hour time period, which is generally what I find a lot of people these days like have the time for, and is also bite sized enough where it gives you some RP, gives you a encounter or two at most. Seriously, don't do more than two if you have any chance of wanting this to be like a singular episode. And it gives you enough time to develop something and accomplish something without it either dragging on till everyone's drained at like hour 4, or it's like too short where it's like, oh no, an hour and a half has gone by and our 2 hour slot's up because we spent a half hour bullshitting about nothing. So this is it, everybody. See you next time. We have to come back in 2 weeks. No, we're not doing that either. So part of what I started with tonight was talking about that first 20 minutes that you're starting. You want to like really hand the story off to the players. So again, just like reviewing my little notes here that I've been writing, remind of if you hand the story off to the players, like, and what do you do now kind of thing, it's going to remind them of their agency. Like, they weren't just sitting back and listening to you develop like a plot hook for like an hour. It was like 20 minutes. Okay, we're done drinking at the tavern. We're done getting massages at the spa. What are we doing to jump into this? It reminds them of the time constraints, because you're like, okay, now keep in mind we're trying to get this done in one night, everybody. So go, kind of thing. And then it also sets the expectations and the scope of the one shot you're trying to craft. And that is kind of what I was talking about when y'all jumped in. Oh my gosh. Let me fix that for you. Let me add like an extra background here really quick. It'll be no problem. It'll be a little bit easier to see. I probably should have done that before. Right here. Bam. Now I'm purple. Now I'm gone. Now I'm back again. Oh my gosh. Hey, Lestraw Hat. Thank you for subscribing. 9 months. That's so fucking rad. Oh my gosh. And I'm already missing them. Thank you, Colonel, for the posture check and the drink water redeem. Oh my god. Colonel, if you're planning for 12 hours, just like do this, but like do it 3 times, and you'll have exactly the amount of content that you'll need for half of what they'll actually get accomplished. So if you like do this and then do it a couple times and then like yam it together as a loose timeline quest line that they're going to accomplish, they might get half of it done. And I think that's super admirable. The floating head was kind of cool. All right, well, the chat has spoken. I am a floating head. That's not a problem over here. But where was I? So yeah, introducing your players to each other. You are saying less and doing more with by like setting that limited amount of scope. So by like assuming things, sometimes you'll let the players infer and kind of fill in the blanks, and that can help you when you're trying to be concise and keep to a strict time limit. Kind of how I was talking about the whole pirate ship that's missing. And I really think that is what you... Oh, and you want to have your plot hook. Duh. Um, your plot hook needs to be delivered in that 20-minute mark. So I think what I kind of want to do... Can I do... no. I don't got time for that. Last session was 2 young dragons, a couple shambling masses, a tower navigation, 4 days of travel, and a shopping spree. And the party getting teleported to the other side of the map where one got arrested. That sounds like a 12-hour session. That's for sure. But getting back to this. Oh, yeah, and really quick, Nightbot just reminded me, I think today is like the last, like, as I speak right now live on the internet, there is like 2 or 3 hours left on this thing. So if you did not back it yet, go for it. We held several sessions that you can watch after this stream on YouTube, and I think maybe even here on Twitch that haven't gotten removed yet, where we dove into the world of the Black Ballad. And on the Mitra main campaign that is usually here on Tuesdays, we just spent like, what was that, like 2.5 sessions in the Black Ballad setting too, which was really cool. Had some amazing RP moments with Rev's mom. So definitely go back and watch those. And of course, take a second and back the Black Ballad on BackerKit. I saw earlier that Pat tweeted they hit all of the stretch goals. So there is literally nothing else that they could possibly give you. It is maximum value. You know what I mean? So now is as good time as any in the final hours to back the Black Ballad if you have not yet. Anyways, off the sales pitch and the plug, back into creating a world. The plot hook needs to be delivered. So let's do that, actually. And... or actually, let me ask the chat. Would you rather I kind of go over the non-descriptive, non-exampled bones of how to like do a session like this and then create one? Or would you rather I kind of do a chunk, do an example one-shot thing, build, and then continue on to the next thing? Let me know. I'll give it like another minute or two in chat. Hey, Zendaric. No preference. Bones, bones, bones. Okay, Zendaric wants some bones. Fair enough. Colonel Blah is just here for the knowledge. Noted. And Zero also has no preference. The auto mod for this channel is extremely strict. So if you say a bad word and I'm not paying attention, I'm sorry. Lestraw Hat, you just subbed today. So what's your pick? Do you want some bones like Zendaric, or do you want to do chunk example? And anybody else, I see you. You're in there. Anywho. Heyo. Yeah, Colonel Blah knows from experience the ins and outs of what the auto mod is a dick about. But I think Zendark, you're the only one that gave like a solid vote. So not to waste any more time tonight, let me just go over the bones then. So, okay. There we go. So now that you've started off this one shot with a bang, you've handed over the story to the players, how the hell are you supposed to shepherd them like the little cats and dogs that they are into doing the very thin amount of game that you have planned for this one night in the month that you've had off, that you didn't have to watch the kids or go to practice or whatever else you do in your life? Um, how do we make it efficient? And how do you allow yourself to give the players freedom as if they were playing a regular session of D&D, but also, have this table agreement where you as the dungeon master have also kind of asked them to suspend disbelief in the fact that, it's a truly open world and they can do whatever they want to do. Because there is sort of like a give and take there with like a one shot where they know, like, guide me, daddy, this is the thing we're doing tonight, right? So you kind of have to maybe even say that at the beginning of your session. Like, talk to your players and be like, hey, this is a one shot. um, you can do whatever you want, but if we go too far off the rails, it's just going to be like a normal session that has no conclusion. So if you want to get that satisfaction at the end, like we know you do, you're going to want to kind of play by the rules that I'm setting in this playground. So that's kind of like the agreement you have with players, and having that communication helps you accomplish these types of things. NPC hints. Yeah, NPC hints are a great way actually to like keep things on the rails a little bit. Um, but I think another important idea that you can have with a one shot is to, you almost want to make your setting and like the scenes that you're setting up for almost like uh I don't want, it's not linear because that's a bad way to describe this. But almost like remote enough that there's like no other thing that they could be doing. Or like, um for example, with that pirate ship, like, the pirate's gonna say with part of the plot hook, I don't know what happened last night. I was drinking all my ale, and all of a sudden, I woke up here and it was the next morning. Last night, I was on that quay out 10 miles south of the island, and it's a local hangout for other pirates, and we have a good time and get drunk. But this morning, I woke up here. Can you go find my boat? And, like, there you go. You've restricted the, like, open world aspect of this a little bit by giving them a destination that they have to go to. And again, like you're saying, Colonel Blah, like, that's an NPC hint. Yeah, Zero, that's a good way to think about it. All roads lead to Rome. Um, Rome is where you want the players to go, right? So you have to make it appetizing some way or another. Like, what if the players just like wholeheartedly agree to doing a mission for this pirate before he even gives the exposition, and they run out of the tavern to go do it? You think that that's silly, but been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Has happened a couple times. So again, maybe having that prepared in your mind where, like, oh, you like have a couple pirates at the ready to be like, oh, last night's party was so great, can you believe Captain such and such got so drunk? And or you can, like, play it up like that. There's plenty of ways to do that. But you want to, in like, after that 20 minutes is done, You get them in the I'm gonna do an old school D&D term. Get them in the room. Back in the day, I guess in advanced D&D before my time, people would refer to kind of plot progression uh, in like the old school combat heavy D&D as like clearing the room and getting into the next room, or like how many rooms did we clear of the dungeon kind of thing. So think of your setting for this one shot as the room, and like you want to get them into the room because that's where it happens. Come on, you've all heard Hamilton at this point. um, you want to get them in the room where it happens and make it appealing. If you have to, give them an optional side quest for like any number of reasons. You know your players, and if it's a random table, make it about money. Who's gonna complain about getting extra money? I'm not. You know, like most people, especially at like a con or something, are gonna have this expectation where that is enough motivation by itself. Um, Make it and take something from them and put it in the room. You know that nice little goblin NPC that the players just like gushed over in the first 20 minutes when you were setting up the scene for like the big heist in the mine? Oh no, the hobgoblins took the goblin and now their one new friend has to be rescued. Boom. You got them in the fucking room. Done. Done deal. And it also kind of sets the expectation again for what the players are trying to accomplish. And again, you're doing a one shot, you're not doing a campaign. You want the players to get a sense of accomplishment and a sense that they, wrapped something up, got something completely done. And this is a good way to do it. You can like, you know, make it about one thing, give them the option that they can save their friend, get extra money. Um, if you're if you have like a horny bard in your party, maybe make it some crazy space brothel that they can only dream of or something. Who knows? Like, um, that's gonna kind of be something where, as the dungeon master or game master, you're gonna have to be flexible and kind of before you start get an idea and a feel for like what these players go for. Um, it's basically your session zero information. So on AP and on A Tale of D20s, we always do like a very big like session zero for all of our main campaign stuff. And we've made no exception when doing like one shots with new people that we also kind of do at least a like an abridged short version of one of these conversations. And that is just to make sure that, you don't step on any toes, you don't cross any lines or anything like that. And also, you can get a good read as a DM about like, are the players going to be fine with gold? Okay. Do we have like the Joker? Oh, is this the guy that's going to be cracking fourth wall jokes all night? Got it. You get that kind of feel, and as a DM, that's like super important and can help you um, shape what you give to get them in the room. So then, like once you're in the room, you have to kind of, son of a bitch. Nope. There we go. This is, where the rest of the bones and structure of a one shot go. Um, so you've got them there, you've made it appealing, and now that they are in there, you want to use the rule of three. It sounds dumb, it sounds cliche, but the rule of three, oh boy. But the rule of three is gonna help guide you, and it's something that's familiar to people at like a subconscious level. So kind of plan for 3 scenes, make 1 or 2 of them a combat scene, and or a skill challenge of some sort. If you have some kind of silly mechanic you want to try out, now's a great time to do that. If you're playing something like Powered by the Apocalypse, maybe instead of, you're not going to have a combat scene, but you're going to have a like an intense verbal verbal conflict, where you have to do conflict resolution basically through the different mechanics that are Powered by the Apocalypse. We recently just had a session on ATOD where, to me, the climax of the one shot was this conflict resolution that we had with a very important NPC. And in terms of a one shot, I think Omar, who was DMing or GMing, did a fantastic job of setting us up. He got us where we needed to be in about 20 minutes. He allowed us to put ourselves in this camp where we needed to talk to the important NPC. And from there, we had our big conflict, which was like the second scene. And then there was resolution, which was the third scene. There was like an actual physical combat where we like had 1 round just to like go over it as an example. But then like it was basically like exit scene, and that was like the one shot. And Zendaric, correct me if I'm wrong, that was like a 3-hour one shot. Exactly what we're looking to do here tonight. So cross promotion to the Tail D20s channel. Great example of a one shot with Tail Weaver Omar. So give that some. Yeah, it was we like, keep in mind, Zendaric, we also did like 40 minutes of like how to play the game too. So I think it was roughly in that sweet spot. So yeah, check that out. So yeah, let's break down that rule of 3 again. Choose 3 scenes that you kind of want to play out. And when I say 3 scenes, a scene can be anything. It's not just like one conversation that the party would have or one interaction with the world. Like, the scene could be the party gets to a cave and they start exploring the cave. That exploration is that first scene in your rule of 3. It also gives the players their first real opportunity to kind of influence the world. Right? Like, I want to say that's like their first real opportunity because, again, set up, get them to where they need to go, and now they can start playing, kind of thing. So yes, like they have the first opportunity to influence the world, and then they find clues related to the plot hook. They find the first mate drunk in this cave. Like, the cave is on the key, and they thought they should check it out. So it's really the profit. And again, use the rule of three here again. So give 3 clues. Like, not that your players are unintelligent or unobservant or anything like that, but a lot of this is in theater of the mind at times, and it can be overwhelming when you're thinking about one major thing you're trying to accomplish, and all of a sudden you have totally forgotten about that because, again, you met a really cute goblin and now you want to like save them and protect them at all costs. So the DM, it's your job. Hey, remember that letter that had the big red font at the top of it that was really important? You find a street sign with a lot of red lettering, and like you like do repeating things. Uh, so kind of what I'm being too wordy about here is repeating specific plot related um, hints. Um, a logo. Um, a color scheme, even. It can be any number of things, but like you make this like repeating thing and you use the rule of three so that way it really gets driven to the players like this is the thing that they need to hone in on, and this is the thing it gives focus for the scene. And this is not necessarily going to be a short scene. It's, like I said, a long scene. It could be the entire exploration of a cave. But what it does is it leads you into your second scene, which to me always feels right to be like your major conflict. Like, this is what you're shooting for, to be like, because combat in Pathfinder and Dungeons and Dragons, it it can take upwards of an hour, depending on how many players, how many monsters they're fighting, what level you're playing at. If you're playing at higher levels, expect a single combat to take an hour and a half to 2 hours. And remember, we're planning a 3-hour one shot. The first 20 minutes were the introduction. If your combat's going to take an hour to an hour and a half, you're left with, an hour in 10 minutes or something like that. Like, like an hour and 10 minutes for them to explore the entire place and get back to where they needed to be at the beginning of the camp of the one shot. So that is kind of why when I'm saying I'm like going with the rule of three here and keeping it to like one combat, maybe 2 max, because just from like a time management perspective as a dungeon master, you need to take that into heavy consideration, especially if you want it to be a challenging battle for your players. I know in D&D sometimes that's really hard with the CR challenge ratings being what they are. Um, but you can always err on the side of it being more challenging and then just like, oh no, he died, if it like seems like it's dragging on for like over an hour and a half or something like that, or the players just keep getting super unlucky and the mimic almost TPKs them. I'm not saying don't TPK them with a mimic because that's hilarious, but it's kind of a shitty way to end a one shot super early. Unless you're doing, again, the Black Ballad, where your TPK'd party can find new life. So make sure there's been a link going around with the Nightbot. This is like the last couple hours for the backer kit live link thing. So go do it. Also, going to take a second and just say, if you're not subscribed and or following, what are you doing? You're sitting here listening to me talk for like 2 hours straight, and you're not following? At least get the notifications so that way you can see other people other than myself here for 2 hours. but um but yeah, you want your major conflict to be like the next thing. Um and I say that because combat takes time. That is like the biggest thing. It follows the natural rise of tension. That's another important reason to do a major conflict then. And then besides that major, like besides like the natural rise of tension, it usually fills the expectation that something bigger is going to happen because of what they did in the first scene. You know, like before the big combat with the pirate lich that stole the pirate ship, they found the Schmuffy Puff that the pirate lich, you know, has its soul in, and they were able to like crack it open on an adamantine shield or something by accident. You know, do like dex saves in the low light, and oh no, the silly human in their non-night vision, dark vision, they tripped and dropped the Schmuppy Puff, which cracked. So traumatic. But like, if you find a Schmuffy Puff, you should expect to fight a lich at some point. And by giving the player that major conflict next, you have found a way to fill that expectation that they were getting. Or, you know, like if it's they find you explore the cave and you find a bunch of bones and they look like they've been recently gnawed on, and you can say that because there's still a lot of blood everywhere and there's some pink muscly bits still attached to the bones. So again, going into the next conflict, oh no, you have to fight the big monster. It fills that expectation that you were relating to with that rule of 3 hints, you know? So it streamlines it in a way where it gives the players leniency to go wide and explore something fully and feel like they did something. And it also still helps reel them back for the sake of a one shot to accomplish the main task. So that's kind of where I wanted to go with that. And then the third scene that I typically run is the resolution. Because, and the reason why I always kind of want to chunk this out as its own scene and not something to be like ran through really quickly, is because at this point of the one shot, your players have been through the trenches of war. They've been through hell, and they are comfortable with each other now. As icky and gross as that sounds, they are comfortable with each other. It's something that organically happens when people start to work as a team, and because of that, they're going to be a little bit looser. Things are going to take longer to get done, And people all want their little slice of the ending, right? Like that is the ultimate satisfaction that we're shooting for when getting to the end of a one shot. So I want to say that the resolution, like, that's all caps. I don't know why that's doing that. Other people are very. Thank you, Epic Beard, for being honest. um. So yeah, the resolution. The players are going to be more comfortable. Damn teamwork. Um. Everyone wants pie. Give the players their slice. No one wants to be Chewbacca at the end of the movie when you didn't get your sweet medal. I'm just saying. I am just saying. So make sure you give everybody their piece of pie. And the last resolution scene gives you it gives the DM or GM the opportunity to wrap things up cleanly and rewards the player with a sense of closure. And ultimately, when you have your players leave the table for a one shot, that's kind of what you want. You want them to be satisfied, happy, and looking forward to tell their coworkers what they did over the weekend, if you know what I'm saying. Epic Beard. That is the resolution is when you dupe them into turning it into a campaign. That is what will happen when they go to the water cooler on Monday and they're like, I had this crazy D&D session. It was just a one shot, but I really hope we can convince the dungeon master to turn it into a campaign, because by the end of it, we all had a great time and we're all laughing. We were all doing teamwork things and feeling good. And this is the sauce that helps get your players there. And if you're being a dungeon master or game master for any other reason than to like tell a cooperative story with your friends so that way they can have a good time, because them having a good time allows you to have a good time, and you're just that type of personality, then you should be striving to do that every time you go to the table. And if you're not, why are you DMing? You should probably just be a player and have more fun that way. And there's nothing wrong with that. Um, like I said, sometimes there's just like a very particular personality that like wants to be a game master. It's just a thing. People are different. Everyone's different, and that's should be celebrated. And you should, be comfortable with yourself to know that. Um, so yeah, that's the secret sauce to making a really sweet one shot. Um, More advanced stuff that you can do is um, add like an additional scene before the major conflict where you're potentially um, solving the optional side quest stuff. The others, like, good thing about the resolution scene is the players can kind of double back in the dungeon and make sure that they didn't miss the optional side quest stuff. So like that kind of thought process is important, and that's also why sometimes sticking with just the three scenes is good, because then they're not finding some secondary major conflict to get themselves into that you didn't account for in the resolution. So something to consider. Um, but yeah, I think that wraps up the bones on that one. Chat, do you have anything to add, or maybe some things you've noticed went in your own dungeon mastering, or problems that you've had and want to kind of work out? Let me know. Put it in the chat. We'll talk about it. But in the meantime, okay, I'm just making sure there's no more redeems that I might have missed. Making sure no more bad words I could have missed. I think I'm good there. Oh, thank you, Zendar, making me drink more water. You can never have enough. Agua. Listen, you don't tell a fish to climb a tree, Epic Beard. Unless they're one of those crazy fish in the Amazon that can actually, or like a mud skipper that can actually like get on land. That's a weird exception. Zero, you are correct. As with everything, moderation is key. You can, in fact, die of H2O, acute H2O poisoning. I believe the most famous case is the woman who died in the pursuits of a Nintendo Wii. You know. Also, Epic Beard, I want to add that the reason that there are 4 shots typically is because I am a Chaos Goblin and will derail things and just have good RP moments. And sometimes that slows us down a little bit. So I put that on myself. That's fair. It isn't just me. We all, I think everybody at this point, like Katie's really good at being a Chaos Goblin. Rachel's become really good at being a Chaos Goblin. Alex, sleeper Chaos Goblin. I promise. But yeah. Who else? Who else? Who else? Zendark, anything to add in your experience of running 1 shots? I think everybody's glad that Nina is back, Colonel Blah. I'm not gonna lie to you. Oh, that's why you're here? I see, I see. Well, I hope it was of consequence with what you learned tonight. So, I guess the next thing to do would be to make our own 1 shot. And this time we're only going to do it in an hour. Time management tips. Time managements. Honestly, I really, I think you were here for that part of it. Um, but like the whole the 20-minute rule, I think is the time management secret you didn't know you needed in your life. Um, Making hot chocolate does take at least 2 sessions, especially when you're making the cocoa from scratch. But like time management stuff with the rule of 20 is 20 minutes, that is. is it sets the pace, and it sets like the scale of what you're trying to accomplish. So I feel like once you have kind of mastered, and I'm still definitely working on this. Once you've mastered the whole like rule of 20 minutes to hand off the story, um, that kind of sets you up to kind of stay on pace for the remainder of your session. Um, yeah, so I think that's like a tip for time management to help. And then another time management tip that I kind of had was for the major conflict portion of your one shot. You have to like set aside like a third of the entire one shot for that conflict, like at least one third. If you're higher level, you may need to skew that even more, just because, whew. Combat flowcharts. Zero, we're gonna have to talk about these combat flowcharts of yours. I like it. And have a ripcord exit option. That is such a good tip. I kind of want to add that to just like the stuff about the scenes. Yeah, that's very true, Colonel Blah. You can always have like the dragon or whatever your enemy is seem like they're too intelligent to die for a small battle today, and have them escape out of nowhere. Um, Still gives the players the impression that they had them on their heels, and is a way to kind of like get things moving into the next scene. Yeah, that is a good point, Epic Beard, for time management. Having a hook that your players will run through a wall for. And I think that's kind of like a sub thing that I have here for getting them into the room. Um, Part of that like 20-minute handoff could, introduce them to like a very cutesy NPC that they care about way too much. And it gives them a neener that they would literally die for. So yeah, awesome. Or hot deadly mommies. Always have some hot mommies lying around. Um, Start in media res. What is media res, Zero? Am I just like thinking of something wrong? Let me know. Lost puppies also always work, yeah. Especially like if you can like make the puppy um something like fantasy related if you're in a fantasy game, that's even funnier. Okay, so let's make a one shot. Let's do it. So before we do that and start diving into the typing, I kind of wanted to share another visual with you all. Um, oh, in the middle of things. Got it. Thank you, Zero. So I wanted to take a moment and look at our map world of Mitra. We have so much space here, And I feel like on AP, we've only really focused in this tiny little thing. So I'm going to actually move us over. And let's do a little time traveling, shall we? That's my Forgotten Realms. Yes. This is my Forgotten Realms, Zendaric. Combat flowcharts are great. Super helpful for when you have varied NPCs so you can immediately know what they do in common situations. Extremely helpful for PC spellcasters too. Huh. Yes, cue the TARDIS noise because we are going out of time and space. And I wanted to kind of take us all the way up to let's do the Kingdom of Kar. So I see that is a ascetic temple. Noted. But we're dealing with like the Kingdom of Kar. And I'm specifically taking this one shot in the direction of the future. Zendaric, I believe that Ben made up a lot of these names and stuff. And I think some of them were like procedurally generated. That's like part of like the whole world anvil, or there's like another program he used too to like make it. Um, but what's beautiful about this is because I'm doing this so far in the future, I can just change anything, which is part of the beauty of playing in Mitra and part of the reason that we are setting up the way we are, so that way we can have a framework to work within, and that sometimes includes nuking the whole world, which is what happened in one of our one shots, 3 shots, a couple months ago. There was a boat heist, and at the end of the boat heist, um, the person who had given us our quest read a scroll and literally nuked the whole world because they wanted to remake it their own way. So the boat hole episodes, that is right, Colonel Blah. That was pretty early on whenever you started checking us up. Um, so yeah, after the boat hole happened, um, we kind of left the universe in this like post apocalypse, right? And kind of what I am shooting for is, you know, maybe let's say like 500 years after that. Why not? 500 years seems fine. Um, Honestly, it could probably be 1,000 years. I'm just picking a spot so I have something concrete in my head. So, uh, thank you, Colonel Blah, for participating so far. Appreciate the posture check. Have fun with work. Thank you, Colonel Blah, for the water redeem as well. All right. So, nuclear winter happened. What that typically means in a greater geologic sense is that the world went through a lot of changes really fast. When a nuclear winter happens, um, a lot of dust from the explosion gets thrown up into the atmosphere, which at the particulate level ends up staying in the sky for extended periods of time. Smoke can also do this because smoke is not just air. It is um, burned carbon. That's why you cough when you inhale smoke. You're coughing because there are very, very fine particulates that are getting blocked up in your lungs and stuff like that. Um, and the same thing happens in a nuclear winter. The sky goes black, temperatures drop, the like crops don't have any sunlight, so they fail. That leads to massive starvations, whether they are wild ecological events or civilizational events in this case, because people aren't eating, and it's like, very difficult to grow food. And there have been historical events in real life that we've had like mini ice ages because of stuff like this. There was like meteors that have fallen, and then there's like some really messed up weather across the globe for a couple decades and stuff like that. And we've seen even crazier evidence of it in the geologic record through going through different layers of sedimentary rocks and stuff like that. And I'm talking specifically about the KT boundary, which is, when the meteorite struck that killed all the dinosaurs. You see like a fine black layer of sediment, and it's like super rich with carbon. You look at it under the microscope, you can see a ton of spheroids, which are, glassy fragments of dust that have fallen back to the earth. They're glassy because as they came back, they heated up, and silica that gets heated up turns into glass. So this is like real evidence that these things have happened. And even in a fantasy world, this is my long-winded way of saying that you can apply these types of ideas to help give some backbone to what you're creating, and to give some reference, and just paint a more detailed picture. That being said, after everything dies, there might be like an ice age for a while. Some areas might have polarizingly opposite effects once the dust settles. Once the dust settles, and if you had a massive glaciation of your world, you have a lot of light reflecting and being trapped up in the atmosphere. This could, in theory, and given enough time, warp the very landscape of your world. In times of high glaciation, you'll see water levels drop. So you will have more landmass. More landmass means that there's going to be potentially opportunities to create civilizations that could disappear, a la Atlantis, if you're a crazy person that believes that. But in this world of Mitra, what I'm going to say is that we are post glacial maximum, and the glaciers are on the recession, meaning things are warming up. And specifically, we've had, without all that extra land mass, there were a lot more jungles, right? And with a lot of jungles, you get a lot of plants creating more oxygen. So you have a super heavy, oxygen rich environment, which then gets translated down the line into some runaway greenhouse, and also in our situation with this mountain range, this once prairie savanna filled region becomes a desert. So that is my super long-winded explanation as to why in the Kingdom of Kar we're going to have a giant desert topography to do this one shot in. Um, I think it was worth having the 10 minutes to kind of mentally go through all these steps and hoops. So that way, you've kind of given yourself, as a dungeon master or game master, your own reference point, reference frame. So, there was a city called Donaland here. Can I like click on that? I used to be able to click on things. I don't know what Ben did in order to do that. I need to like. Nope, not what I wanted. Not what I wanted at all. Go back. um, we'll say Donaland. After the societal collapse, just became the ruins of Dawn. I like that actually. And for our one shot, the players um, oh shit. What's like those wondrous items? Wondrous for I know I said Pathfinder, but just for the sake of finding an item quickly, that's let's see here. Okay, so this is how silly we're gonna go with this, because at this point you all know me and how ridiculous I am sometimes. In the ruins of Dawn, which was this like innocuous little town like 1,000 years ago or whatever, in the main campaign on Mitra timeline, um, magic was like everywhere. It was all around us, all that kind of fun stuff. Um, but after everything went down and the world was reset, it has been told that in the ruins of Dawn there is a magical vase that in a desert as wide as the eye can see in every single direction, there is an oasis where the water never stops flowing. And it is because of this magical vase that has constantly flowed the life-giving waters, even when there was no life to be had. And really what that is your hook for the players to go and fetch a decanter of endless water. Seems pretty important in a place that has no water when they can get free water whenever they want. So, oh my gosh, hey God's Envy, no need to apologize. Work has to come first sometimes. So I'm just glad you could join. So thanks for stopping in. Grab some popcorn and listen to this one shot that I'm crafting up. So this is like part of our 20-minute setup. So the decanter of endless water is rumored to still be flowing. In the my gosh. Magical Mirage City. Boom. The decanter of endless water is rumored to still be flowing in the magical mirage ruins of Dawn. When the shadows came, it was ruined. Oh my gosh, God's Envy, thank you for the sub. 7-month streak. So, anyways, when the shadows came, it was rumored. God bless it. I can't spell. Sorry. It was rumored that the magical city of Dawn became a stronghold for the powers of change and the powers of righteous change, striving to push the shadows away. In the process, one day, however, something that no one knows the answer why to. So, sorry for the silence, but let me just read off what I wrote. The decanter of endless water is rumored to still be flowing in the magical mirage ruins of Dawn. When the shadows came, it was rumored that the magical city of Dawn became a stronghold for the powers of righteous change, striving to push the shadows away. One day, however, something that no one knows the answer why to, happened, and the city vanished into a demiplane that splits its time in the desert and in the astral sea, in the, I don't want to say astral sea just so I can keep it kind of agnostic. In the frozen forgotten. I don't want to say frozen because that implies it's cold and it's just time freeze. In the echoless eternity. I like where your head's at, God's Envy, with the Fey realm, but I want to keep it kind of agnostic in case, you want to put this in somewhere that doesn't have D&D related terms. The Fey is everywhere. The magic is all around us. Ask Zendaric. But Fey spelled Fey is very specific to D&D. Fae, if you're talking about like Fey as in like fairy, that's kind of agnostic, and mythological, but I think the spelling is actually important in this. The Fey Realm, yeah. You could do Fey Realm. I like the Echoless Eternity because it still captures a little bit of what I'm going for with the whole timeless aspect that you would see in the Astral Sea as well. Because I want it to kind of be this like out of time, mysterious ruin that you can kind of go to sometimes, but then you're never heard from again, and it's because you're now basically somewhere else. Kind of like the Fey Realm, exactly like that. But I also picture the Fey Realm and associate it more with like forests and stuff, and this is in the middle of a desert. So I don't know, just playing around with it, but yeah, Realm of No Tomorrow is perfect right there. The Echoless Eternity, Realm of Tomorrow, Realm of No Tomorrow. Um, yeah. So um, let's come up with an NPC name. I'm taking the first name that gets thrown in the chat. We're gonna use as a first name. Second name that gets thrown in the chat, we'll use as like a surname, a second last name. So throw those in there. The Infinite Realms of Fairy. You are supposed to throw out some names for like an NPC, quest giver type character. Um, Whichever, or I can just make one up. Doesn't matter to me. Gouge, I like it. And somebody else throw out a last name for me. Gouge Ptolemy, famed um, famed I don't want to say displacer. Famed famed breeder and farmer of the let's call it the Drizez Valley. Famed breeder and farmer of the Driz Valley. So hands over a scroll of stained yellow parchment, dark and grimy from years lost in an urn. they claim that with this map, during the red solstice, which is just some lunar event that makes the sun red for some reason, the echoless eternity will ring out in a single note for one night, planting the ruins of dawn in the world. You say material world, material plane, whatever you're using. I'm just saying world here. So, there's untold fortune in the vaults that are forgotten. Locked for eternity, except on a few nights like tonight. Gouge is looking for a famed decanter that keeps the ruins green even in the harshest sunlight. What is typically a frozen mirage becomes real during this event, so the party must make haste and retrieve the vase. Whatever other treasures you can find, you can have. So that's like your hook. That's your plot hook. Awesome. Thank you for DMing me that. Of course, Sendark, not a problem. So kind of relating, getting back to this really quick, relating this back to what we had kind of set up in the first hour. This is coming out with a bang in 20 minutes. You have your party. So let's say that like in this part of this like far future after the apocalypse, we'll say that people are like kind of living below ground just because it's so hot in this desert, and underground is nice and cool. So we'll say that the party, like starting off this camp, this like little one shot, is the party is in a communal meeting dugout. The hot sun scorches all who pass in the day. in the daylight, making travel extremely difficult during normal waking hours. The drinks don't get much better and if it wasn't the frozen tundra up north that tundra down south that killed you, it's going to be this blazing heat. So that kind of like sets your scene. This is starting out in a tavern, basically. I'm just saying that you're in a communal meeting dugout. Same thing. But yeah, so the hot sun scorches. So with this statement right here, you have now set the scope that players are going to be encouraged to travel at night when it's less difficult. The impetus of the red what the hell? The red solstice implies that they have like 12 hours of night to complete this in. And it basically gets players, it gives them like the urgency, their sense of agency that we talked about. They had to complete this task tonight. Otherwise, they will never get the decanter for Gouge. They will never get all the treasure that they can carry. Whatever. That is kind of the expectation. And we've now set our scope. They have a place to go to. They have a place to hone in on. So that kind of, allows your players to then like talk to each other, figure out their plans, should they take on this mission or whatever. And Gouge offers a six-legged giant hedgehog. Oh, no. Giant... Yeah, hedgehog's fine. Or armadillo. Giant armadillos that you ride in the desert sounds fucking badass. Anyways. So, Gouge offers a six-legged armadillo to each party member to help get them to the ruins while the sun is down. Again, this gives them more agency. This gives them a bond to their quest giver. Their quest giver is now also outfitting them. After handing the map and giving a strong slap on the shoulder, they wish you good luck. And offer you Rachel speed, as Rachel is canonically a god in this world now, and offer you Rachel speed for your return. Sorry about that. All right. Guess what we just did, everybody? We set up our setting. We handed off the story in 20 minutes. And we've also inadvertently given them their first scene. Um, the first scene is going to be them navigating to the ruins of. Actually, we could split it into two small scenes. Um, or like the one scene is like getting to the ruins, basically. So, I think what's going to be fun here is having them traverse through the desert, and they potentially um, run into like some giant scorpions. So boom, giant scorpions. That could be an encounter if you are really confident in yourself. Um, I think what would be more entertaining though is if you made skill challenges, and especially like with Pathfinder, I feel like there's a lot more flexibility in creating skill challenges, just because there's uh, a wider range of things that people can be making checks on. Um, I also think that having your first scene kind of be a puzzle where they are navigating to the center of um, the ruins of Dawn, and they're following the flowing water. Like I think like that's gonna be um, the skill challenge is them like navigating this puzzle, and along the way to getting the uh, this decanter of endless water, um, like right in like the chamber room where it's like the treasure room where it's being held and is tipped over. There's gonna be some enemy that they're gonna fight, and we're gonna figure that out now, because now we've just talked through what the first scene is. We talk about the rule of three, and then we can move into the major conflict. So, uh, so just like you can have some like dex saving throws, and maybe there were some rocks that they were trying to climb over and get past. Maybe there was um, a group of like a single scorpion or something. Like make something that's going to be like one round of combat. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna add extra combat, make it something that's like it's like their little appetizer. So make perception checks. Failed checks equal one giant scorpion that takes one round of combat to kill. You're punishing the players by giving them less time to explore in your 3 hour session. 4 hours. 3 hour session. So, once at the ruins, and this is going to be kind of where I would be making my map and planning out the encounter stuff. So, like, once in the ruins, the puzzle of um, the maze that is the ruins of Dawn is going to kind of be what moves the players. Once at the ruins, there will be a spring of So, in an ideal world, the players will solve this very quickly by following the water all the way to the source and getting them right to the final encounter and getting them to the decanter. What's going to happen, though, is they probably won't do that, and they'll get to explore some ruins. So, this is where you can kind of flex your muscles as a dungeon master and create as expansive of a set of ruins as you'd like. Um, give them, if you decided to add in like a side quest and say that, the elder's grandchild in this, like the elder of the community that you're in, their grandchild decided to like also pursue the ruins of dawn, because they've been told these stories ever since they were little about it, or they were littler, they were smaller children, and they're urging you to also rescue their grandchild from being locked away into the Echoless Eternity, right? Like, so, boom, submission. You just added it. And even if they don't like talk to the elder at the beginning, you can still put an NPC that like needs to be rescued in there. So, in part of the exploration / submission, the community elder grandchild is exploring the ruins as well. The elder is worried they will get trapped in the Echoless Eternities, as they are not seasoned adventurers like you. So, boom. I like dots. Dots, dots, dots. Cool. So that's kind of like your next, yeah, that is what should happen, but people are dumb. Plan for this. Exactly. And part of that planning is creating this like submission where like if they find the elder's grandchild, they're like, oh, well, why are you here? And then they remember why they're there. And then the grandchild can also be like one of the hint givers. Remember, we were talking about that rule of 3 for that first scene. So make the plot related hint be, oh, you see this channel of water, it continues, and around every twist and turn of the ruins you can see the water channeled into the ground and you can just follow it. That's a hint. The you can have them like find a journal or something, and the journal talks about the treasury in the center of the city, and then like that's a second thing, right? So water flowing is a hint. Find a journal talking about the treasury and government office in the center of the city. Hint number 2. Right, so let me just give that an extra tab. And like, if you think of any more hints you want to drop, you can totally do that. Another fun hint would be to have a scene of destruction not due to desert like environment, like just like weathering and stuff like that, just like part of the ruins, but like make it look like a recent skirmish or killing or whatever. And this is like another hint that you can give. So you like give your players like a map of the city from one of the bodies. And this is an important hint because it's not necessarily like a hint that is driving them to find the main thing, but it is a hint that will indicate what the major conflict is going to be. Because in this city, there is let's call it a like a plant demon or something. I think it'd be really fun if like yeah. And in that like that journal that they're talking about, the treasury and shadow protection offices are in the center of the city. And that's important because, again, the shadow protection offices, that's a hint. Plant demon is going to be what you're fighting. So you leave like a lot of physical evidence, like lots of leaves on the ground. People were vine whipped or like they were thorned to death. Whatever you want to do, you can do that there. That is your opportunity for that. Oh man, sandworm came through. I love where your head is at, Chainer Rucane. I really do, as a Dune fan and as a Star Wars fan. But I think we're gonna, do the unsuspecting thing of having this plant demon in the middle of a desert. I think it's funny because there was like a demonic spirit that, and that's going to be the explanation. That's what we're getting to. So, major conflict scene. So we're moving into our second scene. Plant demon has grown to control the city in its own way. We'll say that this plant demon can talk, like a la Little Shop of Horrors. I think that would be funny. Personally, that's like my sense of humor. So the demon that like is living in this city has oh, it totally can. It can totally sing if we want it to. But the important thing is like the the demon manifested a demon in the form of the shadows manifested by the vines and thorns has taken residence in the ruins and protects its infinite water supply um, with like zero tolerance. It is purely trying to survive. It is not trying to figure out why the ruins of Dawn flip flop between the echoless eternities and the real world. It doesn't care. All it cares about is surviving and growing stronger. And for a plant, that means growing bigger, having more vines, more control over its entire environment, and having a water supply and some sun, which allows it to photosynthesize. Like, what else do plants really honestly need? Um, it's not flowering. I guess it could have a flower, but it's not. So it's not trying to reproduce. So, yeah, feed me, Seymour. um, but yeah, so the players will need to kill a giant plant demon. Um, will give context that it needs the water to stay alive forever. Um, maybe can give broader world context by um, divulging that its demon's shadow um, takes physical form with the, I don't know, with the plants. This will give like a weakness too. Like I'm making this like totally system agnostic. You could run this in Powered by the Apocalypse if you're doing Monsters of the Week. You could run this in Pathfinder if you just made a stat block. You could make this in D&D if you borrowed several existing stat blocks. This could just be like a lot of fun, and I wanted to make sure I kept it like as system agnostic as possible. I feel like an urn that never stops flowing water is like fairly benign in terms of like agnostic systems. So the point is that this can be run no matter what game you're running, and I think that's kind of a fun thing that I wanted to also build into this. So, divulging that its demon's shadow takes physical form with the plants and vines. Um, it was the only life around when it got there, implying that the people of the ruins of Dawn were transported somewhere else when the city went on the fritz. You know, that gives you campaign room in the future, Epic Beard, if that's what you're looking for. Yeah, exactly, Rucane. If it has seeded already, you could run. Oh my gosh, yeah, like you could totally like turn this into like a whole like plant-based campaign like the Seeds of Destruction or something ridiculous. That'd actually be a really fun multi-shot, like if you did like a 12 shot or something. So holla at your boy for that one. That was fun. So yeah. Um, so yeah. It was Long Life that got there. So not to kind of be on the nose, but campaign seeds, you're planting them here to go with my other plant humor. I'll see myself out shortly. Actually, we're running out of time very quickly. Um, so they fight the thing. They come to an agreement with the thing. One way or another, you have your resolution scene. And this is also, as Zero pointed out, one of those ripcord type things. The party sees the sun starting to come up as they end their fight with the plant with Audrey. So the party sees the sun starting to come up as they end their fight with Audrey, gathering up whatever loot and supplies and what is that fucking thing called? A decanter of endless water. This will give the party a chance to talk to the NPC on their way back to their village. Once they are there, they get the thanks of Gouge and also the Elder, even if they didn't talk to them. Watch as the ruins disappear. Yeah, I mean, like, I really think, like, you know, with what we were talking about up here with, like, the resolution scene, this will give everybody their slice of pie for the treasure that was collected. It gives them an opportunity to talk to this NPC that they were searching for, potentially. It gives them time to play with the urn or the decanter of endless water, which is kind of hilarious and could be funny, especially if they drop it and break it. Would be extra hilarious. And then it gives you, as the dungeon master, game master, an opportunity to wrap things up, rewarding the players with a sense of closure. Like, all is well, and Gouge pours water for all of the thirsty souls in the dugout, ending the one shot. And that's really, like, all you need to, like, create a satisfying one shot. We've had some player character development. They've explored. They've had chances to RP and talk with each other. They've had chances to interact with a world that you're creating. You've had chances to drop lore potentially to a greater campaign setting. You gave them a fight, at least one, potentially two fights if they fought the Scorpion and or second Scorpion. If your party is super strong and high level, you can adjust a lot of this stuff too. So you can like add some baby scorpions, or add like a snake or like a hawk or something like that, or like a giant eagle that they have to fight, or like a vulture. A vulture kind of fits in a desert setting, and you can replace scorpion with any number of things that I had in here. But you know, I feel like this is all you need to run like a satisfying one shot in 2.5 to 3 hours, and that includes like wiggle room for players to banter before and after. It gives them time to explore an entire set of ruins. Um, and you can make these ruins as intricate as you like. I would say for something like this, in terms of like a gridded map, you're probably looking at something where you would want to do maybe 40 by 40 uh, grid blocks. And that would give you, and that's like just of the ruins. And that would give you enough room where you could make, you know, anywhere between 6 and 10, so let's say 8 separate areas. If they're 5 by 5 rooms, and have your players exploring it that way. You can add depth by giving them steps to go up to second floors of ruins and stuff like that. You can give them like strategic variation by allowing them to um, use stealth and creep up on a giant plant that might be like giving itself a bath or something in the water. Like you could do any number of things, but like that's like where I kind of would want to see what you do and see how you flesh it out. Um, but then, once they're done exploring and solving their side missions and stuff like that, uh, you have a big fight with a giant plant. Like that's fucking cool, and you get to, make something familiar with Little Shop of Horrors, depending on your player group, and then after that you have your resolution. Like they found the thing, they saved the person, they didn't get stuck in the endless eternities, and they made some money. And everybody now in this community is going to benefit from having a water source. You may have just made Gouge Ptolemy the richest person in the region, and there may be able to raise an army and become a new kingdom in this post-apocalyptic world that we're doing the setting in. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining me in this epic session tonight. I feel like we accomplished so much stuff in such little time. I told you we were going to do it, though. We were going to dive into what makes a good one shot and then actually do it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to make some maps tonight, but I feel like I was able to paint a good mental picture for y'all about what I'm trying to accomplish here. And who knows? Maybe one day you'll get to see this one shot play out on AP. There's always a chance, right? So again, thank you everyone for joining tonight. It has been such a great time talking to you all. You guys really made me feel like I had some friends in the chat tonight. So thank you so much for that. If you're lurking and haven't, felt comfortable enough to talk but enjoyed what happened tonight, be sure to give us a like, hit that little heart button, and follow us. And if you're feeling extra spicy, sub to the channel. We'd love to have you when there's more than just me talking as a bodiless feature in in space as I kind of look at myself for the first time on stream tonight. Thank you, God's Envy, for joining the stream. I know you were a little bit late tonight, but appreciate you joining the chat and having a good time nonetheless. And Yeah, I guess it's time for a raid. Who should we go and raid? Let's see. Let's raid roll call RP. Hmm? The hell's their name? Did I not type in the right thing? Whoops, sorry y'all. All right, so I have some friends from a long time ago in Roll Call RP, so let's go give them a raid. Thank you again, everyone, for tonight, and I'll see you on the next one.